There's a concept. That makes sense for kids.
Yes, it does.
I mean, sugar.
Of course.
Absolutely. We're going to run out of time here, Deborah. You're going to have to come back another time. But one of the drugs that is highly prescribed, and it made headlines quite a while back, but is Ritalin.
Yes.
And Ritalin has some labels on it that nobody would even want to take it if they knew what the labels were on it. In fact, the FDA's most severe warning for side effects in drugs is on the box of Ritalin. But we also need to be aware that even though that there's not been a direct link established between violent crimes and taking prescription antidepressants and stimulants, the most tragic cases of violent murder by someone on prescription drugs should be noted. Jeffrey Weiss, March 2005 at Red Lake High School, left 10 dead. Eric Harris, one of the killers at the Columbine High School right here in Colorado, was on the antidepressant drug Luvox.
It had just been increased.
And it had just been increased. Yeah. Thomas Solomon, a 15-year-old at Heritage High School in Conyers, Georgia, shot and wounded 6 classmates. He was on Ritalin at the time. Kip Kinkle, a 15-year-old at Thurston High School in Springfield, Oregon, killed his parents and 2 classmates, wounded 22 other students while on Ritalin and Prozac. Sean Cooper, a 15-year-old sophomore at Notice Junior Senior High School in Notice, Idaho, fired a shotgun at his fellow students. He was on Ritalin. In 1989, less than 1 month after taking his first dose of Prozac, Joseph Westbecker massacred 8 co-workers with an AK-47 before turning the weapon on himself, and the list goes on and on and on.
Another really important thing to add to that, the Ritalin, any stimulants, disrupts the growth hormone in children. So number one, they don't sleep as well. They tend to have insomnia because they're taking a speed. And the only time you can release that growth hormone is when you sleep. And it also suppresses the appetite. So what happens is these children don't grow the way they should be growing. But even much more scarier is that the brain grows the way the body grows. So these drugs can literally shrink the brain.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen that many times now. I'm thinking of a 32-year woman at the Addiction Recovery Ranch where I work who was put on amphetamines at a very early age because of ADHD. And to this day, at 32, she talks like she is speeding.
Oh.
And so fast. And the doctors have said to her she has so much methamphetamine in her body that she will never recover. But she talks 100 miles a minute, and you just go, oh, my God. What is that brain doing? What are the neural pathways doing? They're neurological.
Yeah, but but in cease therapy, you can make a remedy for that homeopathically and give it to her.
Absolutely. I mean, there are things that can be done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're saying this right before the school year is starting, trying to educate parents, because a lot of parents know they have a problem on their hands. They're waiting for school to come, and they're going to drop their kids off at school, and they may be in for a shock. Labels. Go see your doctor. Prescription drugs. Your child can't participate because he's too unruly. His behavior is not great. You don't want to make your child into a zombie.
Yes. Well, it turned out that my one son, who was having most of the issues, was actually having brain seizures. But they weren't the type of seizures where you fall down and go into convulsions. They were very subtle.
Right. Yeah. I mean, those are extreme seizures.
But very common with ADD and autism.
But common with ADHD and autism. These are all serious things. And I'm hoping that we are planting some seeds for thinking amongst parents and who are listening. If there are young women in their 20s listening who are thinking about starting a family, young families thinking about having children, I hope you're taking this message seriously. Another whole issue is the amount of estrogen that has built up in women's bodies because of now how many generations of birth control use. synthetic estrogens. We know that infertility is on the rise. I think it's really a no-brainer to be looking at these things and realizing that our environment is causing our health issues.
And I also have heard that a lot of the infertility problems are connected to environmental toxins, which is that much more of a reason to detox, and then you will be able to conceive.
Well, a very fascinating thing is the reproductive system in a woman will shut down if the body feels that it is threatened, its own survival is threatened. So, again, males, females going, trying to figure out why they can't have children and what's wrong with me. We're always so big on the what's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. I'm labeled this, that, or the other thing. I mean, we need to change the way we look at that, too. If we're infertile, there's something going on in the body, whereas it does not want to reproduce. Yes. What is that issue?
Yes.
And I find that incredibly fascinating.
I do too. Yeah, it's all goes back to the environment and why we need a detox.
How old are your children now, Deborah?
They're 22. They're both in college, and one's working full time as well. They're doing great.
And would you know that they had ADHD at this point in their lives?
No.
Are they continuing on with their diets and the lifestyle that you developed for them?
One not as much because he's 22.
Right.
But there's no more facial tics. There's no more violent temper. All of that was healed with amino acids.
That's another thing that we didn't talk about. Amino acid supplements, which is what we use on the Addiction Recovery Ranch.
Right.
And those help repair the synapses of the brain, the neural pathways, and the neurotransmitters. So all of that communication system is working well. We focused on vitamins. We focused on minerals. We have not focused on amino acids, which are the body's building blocks.
Yes, and I've heard from so many parents have sent me emails from all over the world telling me that amino acids really helped. And unfortunately, medical doctors don't know anything about amino acids.
Well, and I would recommend that with the company that we use at the Courage to Change Ranch, that people go to Neuroscience Institute online. It's neurorelief.com. They have done studies on addictive behaviors as well as ADHD and autism, and they have developed a line of products specifically targeting these neurological issues.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I mean the science is going that way, albeit slowly, but it has to start at home.
Yes, and but also I think the food industry needs to become more responsible for what they're putting in the food.
How about over-the-counter drugs? Your child has the sniffles, little cold medicine, little aspirin. What are we looking at there?
Golden Seal, Echinacea, Tiger Balm. Yeah. That's my pharmacy.
And stay away from Tylenol.
Yeah, liver disease.
Yeah, it turns the liver into jello.
Sudafed, methamphetamines. It's drugs or drugs or drugs. Anything that we put in our body that's a synthetic is going to come back and bite us eventually. And that's a given. That's what we are starting to see. It's all starting to unravel around us. We were the great generations. We had the technology. We had all the easy and the conveniences so that women go back to work and work in the workforce. And it sounded great on paper.
It was an aspirin a day.
Yeah, it was an aspirin a day keeps the doctor away. Right. No, wasn't that an apple before the aspirin? It was the 8th A's. Anyway, and now we're finding out none of this is, it places more burdens on women.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And especially in a time when finances, people are struggling, the financial pressure. But if you have kids at home that are behaving with exhibiting out of control behaviors, this is where you need to go. Do not go running off to a doctor for a prescription drug unless it's an absolute necessity until you've tried some of these other holistic methods.
Yeah. Leave no stone unturned.
And leave no stone unturned. VictoryOverADHD.com is where you can find out more about Deborah Merlin's book, A Holistic Approach for Helping Children with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Don't wait till your child is labeled. Get this